Good evening, everybody. Special Monday edition of PegLegCraig. I wanted to be on last night, but uh, due to circumstances beyond my control, I couldn't. So I'm going to do this tonight. Now, I'm not going to do like a big elaborate hit piece on all these people because honestly, I don't like playing the cult of personality game. I don't even like that I have to mention their names because I'm not into that whole thing, right? But at this point now, we have to start acknowledging that we've got a problem. All right. And as I see it right now, our biggest problem is these people that are looking to divide the right and look at the agendas that they're chasing in order to do it. Okay. You've got Candace Owens on one hand, who, hates apparently every Jewish person in the world except for the ones that represent her against the Macrons. Okay. On the other side of it, we've got Tucker Carlson, who I can't call him anything else but guitar's bitch at this point because, he bought property over there. He talks about how Sharia law it's nothing bad about Sharia law. Well, people that live under Sharia law are currently slaughtering Christians all over the world, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa, but in parts of the Middle East as well. And if they're not slaughtering them, they're locking them up in prisons. So that's a little beef I got with you there, Tucker, on your Sharia law. I'd love to talk to you about it in person if you had the guts. But anyway, that aside. And then you got Nick Fuentes. Now, the thing that kind of joins all these people together and not Megyn Kelly so much is the Southern Poverty Law Center, right? Now, they don't go after Tucker directly because he's still considered somewhat of a mainstream news source, but they used to go after him when he was on Fox, but they wouldn't go after him directly. They go after people that he would have on and then use the person that they would have on in order to drag Tucker into it. Nick Fuentes off the Southern Poverty Law Center is basically, they built his street credibility. All right. His whole thing started really around that incident in Charlotte, the good people on both sides incident. That bogus narrative that the left was running with for years. Well, that's where Nick really cut his teeth into getting into the industry. And, the Southern Poverty Law Center has, classified Nick, for quite a long time and have had no problems pushing it. Now we find out that the Southern Poverty Law Center had people involved in all these groups, these hate groups. And of course, they're saying, well, they paid for undercover investigations, but they are exorbitant amounts of money for an undercover investigation that they never yielded any reports from. So what I'm saying here is we have a problem. I mean, we have these people, claim to be on our side, the Nick Fuentes, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and yet all the major news stories that they could be covering right now, to really be on our side, like the Ilhan Omar and her problems, AOC and her more recent problems, instead of doing investigations on stuff like that where we could yield some actual results which would do some good for some real Americans, they're too interested in trying to tear down the administration and do everything that they can to ruin the midterm elections. Now, I think we can see it now clear as day. Their agendas are starting to show themselves, and you people going after Erica Kirk, I don't understand you at all. Okay, you don't think that she would be traumatized that there was a shooting going on in a place where she was after what happened to her husband? I mean, are we that heartless? Have we become that hard-hearted, that stiff-necked, like Stephen would call the Jews in the Bible? Have we become like that now? Because I could certainly see why she would be traumatized, and if you can't, then I suggest that you examine your heart. Oh, this is play acting. Oh, it's on cue. The woman lost her husband to a sniper. Okay, you got Candace Owens running around trying to blame everybody but the trans community for it. And yet we know this is another incidence of trans violence, maybe passive trans violence, in that the shooter himself, who I'm not going to name, and his little boyfriend wanted to be a girlfriend type of thing, and he was also involved in some trans chats and whatnot. This is more radicalized trans violence. And we've gone everywhere around the world. Egypt, which turned out to be a bogus narrative. Uh, you know, they blame that poor kid that was standing there in a hoodie, completely innocent. He had to, delete some of his social media because he had people threatening him on there, you know, because she decided to point him out as being possibly suspicious. Now, her latest narrative was what was it? There were multiple lookalikes of the shooter at the event. Now, how far do we have to reach to just not say, that it was a trans violence action? And you're dividing all these people over it. She's going after Erica Kirk. She's going after this one. She's going after that one, and she's causing damage to these people's lives. They're being threatened. And she hasn't proven anything. Oh, I'm just asking questions. Well, I'm asking questions too. Why did you disappear the day after the whole thing about the Southern Poverty Law Center came out? And why is it you and Nick Fuentes are in Europe at this point? Some people say they're both in Italy. I don't know. I ain't going to play the speculation game, but I do know they're both in Europe at this time. And I mean, it kind of makes me wonder what's going on there. I'm just asking questions, though, Candace. Okay. And as far as Tucker Carlson goes, well, he keeps downplaying everything. Nicolas Maduro lost an election. Okay, he lost an election and he refused to cede power. But Tucker Carlson's okay with him. All right. He's okay with the current leader of Iran, whoever it is this week, because Trump keeps killing them as they keep coming. But whoever it is this week was upset about the Jesus post. Okay, so your own people that you finance, some of these Muslim groups that you finance, aren't slaughtering Christians in droves. That doesn't offend you, Tucker? Seriously? You're not going to act like, oh, well, Sharia law is just this good thing and all that other stuff. You know what? It may be fine in countries where, like Saudi Arabia and stuff, where it's more controlled. But at the same time, it's not a good thing because it's now at a point where they're just, having what do they usually call that? I always want to say fatwa, but that's just a particular one murder warrant type of thing. A jihad. Okay, they're jihading Christians all over the world, and they're dropping them in 60, 25, 30, 31 at a time. They're killing. All right, there's these mass graves all over the Congo right now. There's mass graves all over Nigeria. There's mass graves all over Niger. Okay, and what was that other country? That's I for the life of me can't remember, but they're being killed by Muslims, and these Muslims are taking great joy and pleasure in killing them. And I've seen the footage of a mother and her two children being shot. They're innocent. They couldn't have hurt you. They couldn't do anything to you, but you still eradicated them because they're Christians. But Tucker Carlson's okay with these people doing that. I don't see him ever speaking out about any of that kind of stuff. But he's sure to jump on the bandwagon when, President Trump, let me tell you, it was a blasphemous piece. It was tacky. It was tasteless. I can't defend it in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, it certainly didn't rise to Tucker bringing in the leader of the country that's the number one world sponsor of terrorism, Iran, and trying to make him into a sympathetic figure. And then he goes on this interview show with his brother so that he can give this narrative. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, I shouldn't have, led people to vote for Trump. What were we going to do? Vote for Kamala? You're going to tell me we would be in better shape now? You see, these people now are starting to show their true faces. Their true agendas are starting to show. And all of them have always been jump on the Trump train, jump off the Trump train, since their beginnings. Nick Fuentes Well, he started pretty much off it, but he jumped on it when he saw that it was a radical place to be. And, when he thought Trump was based for a period of time. Candace Owen has jumped on it and off it so many times. I'm surprised she doesn't have whiplash. Megyn Kelly, you know, she never forgot the humiliation of that first Trump debate back in, was it 2015, when she tried to do the gotcha question on Trump about Rosie O'Donnell and his tweets against her. And she was trying to sound all haughty and high arts journalist and everything. And Trump just bashed her into the ground. And people laughed at her after that. And it was humiliating for her. And she hated Trump for the longest time. She still did, even when she decided to back Trump in the last election, because she really saw that that was the way the wind was blowing and that was the way that she had to go. Okay. We're investing way too much time, money, and effort into these people, and they're doing nothing but destroying the fabric of the country. We're worrying about fighting each other with those when we should be going after the Ilhan Omars. We should be going after Virginia for this ridiculous election that they had to redistrict Virginia. Thankfully, the Supreme Court there has put a halt to it, at least for the time being. But and instead of rallying around Tina Peters, because she's the court already, the higher court already suspended her sentence, and she's still in a Colorado prison. She's been there for over 2 years. Why is she still there? Are any of these people covering that? Do any of these people care about that? The only one that's cared about her is Trump. And you know what he did? He signed a pardon. Now, he knew the pardon was a symbolic move because a federal pardon has no say over state law. But he did it to bring awareness to her situation. And instead of jump on that bandwagon and do something that would be productive for us, no, instead we like all this infighting. Well, Tucker's this and Erica's that, and Candace is this, and Nick one is that one, and Megyn Kelly hates this, and all this other stuff. I mean, Megyn Kelly wouldn't go after Candace Owens, she said, because she had children. She was a mother, a young mother, whatever. That's never stopped Megyn Kelly before. She used to go after Patty Murray with both barrels when she was the sneaker-wearing soccer mom. Okay? So it never stopped her from going after Ilhan Omar, who's also got children of her own. So the way I see it, she's just as phony as the day is long. And people falling for this, it's just pathetic. Why are we even paying attention to these people? All right. They've obviously, I'm not worried about who stays on the reservation, who gets off the reservation. That's just garbage leftist talk. All right. But it's pretty obvious that they do not have the best interests of Americans at heart. Okay. They're going full barrel, full steam at trying to tear the country apart at a time when we need to come together. All right. You want to get these illegal aliens out of here? You're not going to do it if you keep listening to these talking heads creating situations that don't need to be, back in Sharia law, back in Maduro, back in all the wrong horses in every damn fight. Okay. And you got one who's supposedly doing true crime and just asking questions, but, never asked the right questions about the right people. And again, she's willing to blame anything under the sun except the trans community for it. And at this point, I have to say that most of the evidence leads to them. And it all leads to one individual in particular. And no one has been able to disprove anything. And people say, well, there's no evidence coming out. No one's sharing anything, and all this. Well, guess what? Not until the trial. Watch the trial. You'll see all the evidence then. And please stop with the 30-06 or 30-06 bullets. There are several different types of bullets that go into them. They're not all the high-powered, high-caliber bullets. Some of them are for varmints. And when you shoot a varmint, you don't want the bullet going through it and killing somebody or something else, 200 yards down the road. So, yeah, they do use the type of bullets that, can hit a bone and fragment and not go any further. I mean, come on, even the most basic hunters. And I know a lot of these guys out here are being disingenuous with this because they are hunters and they do know how those guns work and they do know how that ammunition works and the power of the ammunition, and they know that the ammunition can separate, and they know that there are several different types of ammunition used in that one same rifle, and that not all of them have that high trajectory going to go through the target and into, a piece of concrete and 10 other people on the way there. Okay. And they're being disingenuous because they know better. So now I got a question. Do you know anything about hunting? These people that are, supposed experts on this, talking about how, the bullet should have penetrated there and gone through there and gone through the. What about varmint bullets? What about the rounds they use for varmints? Shoot coyotes and whatnot. Are you unaware of that? Are your skills not as good as you think they are? Or are you leaving it out on purpose? Do you just not know what you're talking about? Maybe. And it's all going to come out at trial, and then all of these people are going to have egg on their face. Particularly Candace Owens, who again will blame anybody. A Girl Scout troop in the Middle East she'll blame before she would blame the shooter. I'm not naming him because these people shouldn't get famous off of this kind of crap that they do. And it's just ridiculous watching people just falling all over themselves, fighting, arguing, and speculating over all this nonsense, which does nothing productive to help the country. We're at a vital stage right now in America. All right. We're fighting for the soul of the nation, and you're allowing these people to divide us. Nick Fuentes, the likes of him. I'm not going to get into what his sexuality is. I really don't care. I don't care what his nationality is. Okay. I don't care about that either. But, the fact that he's a Catholic, Candace is a Catholic, I believe Megyn Kelly is a Catholic, and Lord knows what Tucker Carlson is. I think he's converted to Islam altogether. Okay, I find all that kind of interesting too. But I'm just asking questions here. All right. Why is it that they've turned all at once like this in a kind of knee-jerk move? Why was it Tucker Carlson did this, real cozy interview with Nick Fuentes where he talks about Stalin being one of his personal heroes and actually remembering the guy's birthday, because he celebrates it every year. Now, look, there is no circumstance under which you can make Stalin the hero of anything. This man killed his own sister, for crying out loud. Okay? He slaughtered people. He was a complete iron-fisted dictator. And Nick Fuentes thinks he's all right. He's also said, Jeffrey Epstein is okay. Really? But yet we're going after this one and that one over Epstein. But when Nick says he's okay, you overlook that and just move on to the next thing. Their own fruits will show who they are. Okay. And again, you could say with Megyn Kelly the same thing. She's showing who she is. She won't go after Candace Owens for anything, for blaming Erica Kirk for anything, but she will grandstand on any occasion that she can to make some feminist point of view. But not on this one. Not on, a poor mother who just lost her husband and has 2 kids that she has to raise and is trying to run TPUSA as per her husband's instructions of succession that she do. And people want to hold her up as some kind of, bad guy. I saw this really, really bad AI-generated picture of her and Ellen DeGeneres with kids together. It's supposed to be them going off to Epstein Island with these kids. What's wrong with you people? First off, if you're going to put something up like that, you got to authenticate it. All right. You don't just accept any picture you find anywhere. This reminds me of when they were spreading the rumors that DJ Daniel was dead. I was never so mad in my whole life, and to find out that, he was perfectly fine. It wasn't based on anything at all. It was just a complete, entire hoax. And people were just posting the thing, getting their attention and getting their engagement and all that other stuff, and upsetting a whole lot of people. They had people calling the Daniels family to give them condolences. We're crying. We're upset. All for what? And this is the same thing that you're doing to Erica Kirk now. All right. Look, there's certain things she's done since Charlie's death that I wouldn't have advised. Like, I certainly wouldn't have advised the tight leather pants in her first real public outing after Charlie's death. It was tacky. It was stupid. It was a very poor fashion choice. But at the same time, we made this big deal out of a hug that took 1.5 seconds, literally 1.5 seconds. And we made this hug into the hug heard round the world. I mean, can we just stop for a minute and look at ourselves and see how insane we're starting to act now? And get back to doing productive things. Let's go after AOC. Let's go after Ilhan Omar. All right. Let's go after Swalwell. All right. Let's go after all of these people that are actually doing things that are destroying the fabric of our country. All right. Let's get them eradicated from Congress. Let's get them the hell out of there instead of quibbling over these stupid talking heads who don't matter worth anything. All right. Let's back our heroes like Tommy Boy and Zach X and Savannah Hernandez, who are out there on the streets fighting the battles for us, getting us the footage, showing us how deep and how dark the enemy goes. Okay. Let's go after, let's support the people that are, bringing charges against the Southern Poverty Law Center. Let's go investigate and do some deep dives into them and find more stuff about them that we can make an overwhelming case instead of worrying about what Tucker said, what Candace said, what Nick said, what Megan said. Who cares? Put them in the periphery because that's where they belong now. They've put themselves there. All right. They're refusing to cover any of these kind of things that are actually going on. And we're actually making some headway. And we're actually getting to the bottom of things and actually learning some real truth instead of speculating by asking questions, which do nothing but damage people's lives. And none of them have proven anything. Not one of them. Megyn Kelly hasn't proven any of her allegations. Candace Owens hasn't proved any of her allegations. In fact, numerous ones have been debunked. Okay? And she's a hypocrite. She supposedly practically hates Jews on her show. And yet at the same time, when she's got to be defended from crime, who does she go to? How did Candace Owens get where she was? 2 Jews. Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager. What was Candace before this? She started out as Red Pill Black, and she was doxing conservatives. So she's just going back to her roots. Tucker Carlson, he might as well get his bow tie back on now and start marching around with Farrakhan and them because, he's just as good as joined the Nation of Islam. And fine, you want to do that. Okay, but don't be disingenuous and act like, oh, I made such a mistake by leading people to Trump. Yeah. I almost cursed. But this is how angry it gets me, watching these people tear us to bits, and we're literally fighting over garbage and nonsense, stuff that isn't going to do anything. What if, at the end of the day, Candace Owens turned out to be right? What did we win from that? What if Tucker Carlson is right? What do we win from that? Nick Fuentes, what do we win from that? Megyn Kelly, what do we win from that? Nothing. Okay? What do we win if we keep going after Ilhan Omar and exposing more and more of her corruption? All right? We start finding the other Eric Swalwells that are cruising around Congress. If we find more people with their handling their finances like Ilhan Omar, that's getting real journalism done. Why can't more people be like Nick Shirley going out there and exposing where we're losing literal billions? We can't get a bunch of people to get it up for that and, stay on that. And we got to deal with these, wine box moms and these, basement dwelling millennials who, want to hate on the administration and want to hate on the Republicans and want to divide the country and want to try and get it back to a state where Trump's getting impeached every 5 minutes. Look, no matter how you feel about some of the things Trump has said and did, I'm telling you, it was embarrassing. Mueller, Rob Reiner, and you can try and spin that last meme of him as Jesus all you want. He's wearing the Jesus robes. Okay, so just cut it out. Don't spin the meme. All right, it was in poor taste. We can say that. It's okay to say that. He's not a holy figure. All right, he could well save this country, but not if we, you know, defend to every little thing that comes into his mind that he does. And yes, I know the meme existed for a long time before that, but he reposted it. He brought the attention to it. And that means that also by him reposting it, he's endorsing it. He didn't say something against it. He said, he just put it out there. Okay. I get the idea. He's trying to heal the country. All right. But that was the wrong way to go about it. It was blasphemous and it was stupid. Okay. But fine. But what other choice do we have? We have to back Trump. No matter what, we're riding with him because the alternative is the doom of this country. Or don't you remember the Biden years? Have we forgotten this quickly already? What it was like? Could you imagine if we had cackling Kamala as our president right now? What we'd be going through, what we'd be enduring. How you want to talk about how it's hard to be a Christian in America now? Try being a Christian in America if she were at the helm. Because Biden was going after them pretty good. They start with the Catholics. They always do because they're the low-hanging fruit. But from the Catholics, they, branch off the vines and they start going after the Baptists and the Lutherans and, the Church of Christ and, all the rest of them. We have to start coming together as a country, especially if you call yourself a Christian. We have to start coming together and we have to start fighting against these forces that are seeking to tear us apart. All right. They went out from us because they were never of us. All right. Remember that from the Bible? And I mean, it just goes to show now that that's who they are. They're showing who they really are underneath it all. Tucker Carlson can't be doing this for money. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was rich as anything. How much more money can you possibly need? I don't see finance as the driving cause. I see two causes in Tucker Carlson's case. All right, one is that dogmatically he has realigned himself with an Islamic way of thinking, or somebody's got a picture of him doing something nasty with somebody that he shouldn't be. Those are the only two scenarios I can picture for Tucker Carlson's complete turnaround and going hard left. Candace Owens, this has always been her style. She bounces in, she bounces out, she goes which way the wind blows, and she does what's ultimately the best thing for Candace Owens' income at the end of the day. I don't think she has money problems at all. I disagree with Trump. I don't think she's low IQ at all. I think she's actually fairly smart. But I also think that she's so smart she boxed herself into a corner now, because when the trial does start, then we're going to find out, all these things about the shooter, who shall not be named, and we will find out that all these crazy theories that she had people running wild on, you know, all amounted to nothing. We're better than this. And we're better than those people, and we deserve better than those people. So my suggestion is we turn away from them. We forget about them. We just tune them out. Who cares? Okay, so they want to say this, they want to say that, so what? Let's not give them any play. Let's not argue it on social media. Let's not even point it out, the stupid things that they're saying. Just leave them as irrelevant figures. That is their worst nightmare. See, they'll even take your hate if they can get it, because that's still attention towards them. But if you can make them an irrelevant figure, just ignore them, then they tend to fade, or they tend to change their point of view. Megyn Kelly certainly is living proof of that. Candace Owens is also living proof of that. Tucker Carlson's a little bit of a different animal because he had always been conservative. I mean, even back when he was on MSNBC, and he did Crossfire, he was still a conservative. He might have been a little more establishment in those days, a little closer to the neocons, but he did turn that around. And then the biggest one right now too that's really getting under my skin is Alex Jones. I mean, Alex Jones should just know better by now. He's pulled this, you know, uh, on Trump's side, off Trump's side about 100 times already. All right, he's bounced in and out of Trump's orbit. He's already destroyed his credibility so many times. I mean, even in a court case, he said that his show was primarily entertainment. So at that point, there, you have to stop taking him seriously. Look, I appreciate the stuff that he did when he was younger. When he had a pair and he went after the Presidio and showed that it was actually run by Russians. When he entered Bohemian Grove undercover, you know that was Alex Jones in his heyday. That was the real Alex Jones to me, and that's the guy that I want to remember when I think of Alex Jones. I don't want to think of this bloated, silly parody of a human being that he turned himself into after years of dealing with all this stuff. And again, he keeps changing his mind. One minute they're the globalists, one minute they're not. One minute they're battling the globalists, the next minute, oh, they're part of the cabal. I've had enough of him. And quite frankly, he should just step aside at this point. Take a couple of years off. Come reinvent yourself. It's you still have plenty of money to do it with, even though they got your studio and they got a whole bunch of other stuff. You managed to shelter up quite a few mil, so it's not like you're going to be hurting anytime soon, Alex. So maybe take a vacation, sit this out for a while. Okay. Candy, the same thing. Again, I find it really odd that as soon as the Southern Poverty Law Center got busted, both of them ended up in Europe almost the next day. I mean, what's going on there? And again, I'm not going to speculate. I mean, for all I know, Candace could just be visiting with the relatives back home. Another question I want to ask is, her husband's an elite in England. All right, he comes from an elite family. How many British elite families are Catholic? That's a pretty rare thing to have amongst the British elite. Usually, they're almost all Protestants, and they go to an Anglo church. Almost to the letter, to the T, because that's how they make their business connections, and that's how they do their various celebrations and whatnot. And yet now we have these guys that are trying to bring all of these religions together under the veil of Catholicism. So, I mean, if you're someone who watches eschatology from the Bible, at this point now you got something worth watching, because it does look like the Catholic Church is making some moves. They're creating these charismatic Catholics. Oh, yeah, yeah. If you want to learn more about them, I would suggest Truth Time Radio. It's run by a guy named Trey Cersei. Now, I'm not big on mid-acts dispensationalism, although I do think some aspects of it have a place in reality. I am big on the free grace gospel, which they also teach over there, but he goes after a lot of these people that are teaching the wrong gospel. And I believe that charismatic Catholics is by far the wrong gospel. So if you want to learn more about it, I'd suggest Truth Time Podcasts. That's the channel on YouTube. Check them out. And you may learn something about mid-acts dispensationalism. Again, I'm not on board with it. I just don't see it all, but I do see parts of it. And I am starting to believe that maybe certain books of the Bible weren't written to the Gentiles, and that Paul's gospel is the gospel of the Gentiles entirely, like he states in there. And he calls it his gospel 3 times in all his writings. His gospel, meaning that it was given to him especially. So, I mean, that may be another interesting reason to look at Truth Time podcasts. Because I would love to see somebody, present an argument, a counter argument to Trey Cersei about mid-acts dispensationalism, because there are some weak areas, and there was one question that he stumbled all over the place. It didn't seem like he had a good answer for. And, I won't get into it now, but anyway, check them out, and you can find out about charismatic Catholics and all these latest trends where they're trying to unify an ecumenical Christian coalition under the Catholic Church of all the banner Methodists. Um, uh, uh, Man, all of them are starting to escape me now. Lutherans, uh, um, Church of Christ, a bunch of different other ones. All right, and I'm currently an attendee at a Church of Christ, by the way. So I don't take this lightly, and they're trying to join them all under one veil and start something going there with making them ecumenical. I mean, if you don't see the eschatology of Revelation starting to take shape and Matthew 24 starting to take shape, I mean, I don't know when you will, because you're missing it because you're too busy chasing after who Tucker's mad at this week and who Candace has a bee in her bonnet over. Look, if you're going to be genuine, be genuine. If that's really what you're interested in and you're interested in breaking away from the country, well, fine, go ahead and do that. But real people that want to do stuff for America, that really want to make America great again, and really want to make America a good place for all of us again, we need to be fighting the right wars. And right now, we got the Democrats on the run. We have scandals coming out of everywhere on the Democrat side. And instead of going after those, instead of unifying and getting behind those, we're allowing them to divide us. All right. And we're focusing our attention on trivial talking heads. Come on. One more time. Ilhan Omar. Remember her? Don't we want to go after that? Yes, we do. AOC. She's like misspending her money all over the place. Don't we want to go after her? Yeah. Did we just collect the scalp of Eric Swalwell? Yes, we did. And that was really with no public groundswell. Okay. That was the government itself did that. Are we starting to collect some scalps at Southern Poverty Law Center? Yes, we are. These are the issues we need to be focused on. These are the things that are going to unify us. And even if you have problems with the people at the top, I want you to tell me what your alternative solution is to them at this point. If you don't have one, then get out of the way and let the big boys and the grown-ups handle mopping up the mess that the Southern Poverty Law Center and all these Congress people are leaving behind. Okay? We don't need you in the way. We don't need your silly distractions with your silly, oh, well, look at how she cries on cue, and oh, look at how this one acts this way and that one acts this way. That's 2 and 3-year-old stuff. That's grade school stuff. It's time we grow up. It really is, America. It's time we grow up. And look, I don't want to do this. I don't want to sit here and do these shows where I got to show clips of this one doing that and articles about that one doing this and all that. You can see it with your own eyes. You don't need me to point it out to you. All right. I just put it all in perspective for you. And those were just 5, really. 4 main ones, and Alex Jones, who's, marginalized himself repeatedly anyway. So let's stop paying attention to things that aren't doing productive things and start paying attention to the things that are, please. I pray that that's where we get to, that we soften our hearts, that we come together and we start fighting for the things that matter. I mean, again, I show her every week on our Let's Not Forget Tina Peters. Okay. 2.5 years in a Colorado prison. She's 73 years old. She's a Gold Star mom. All right. She's in prison because she told the truth. All right. And it embarrassed Jenna Griswold. And that's why she's got charges against her. And it was just overturned by a higher court in the state of Colorado that her sentence was excessive, that it was unnecessary. So they overturned the entire sentence. She's already done 2.5 years. Why is she not out? Another person we should be praying for is DJ Daniel. His father, Theodius Daniel, is trying to put a coalition together in Texas and trying to take back Texas for Texans. We have Muslim groups running wild over there, trying to create whole towns and, centers where they have numerous mosques all packed in together, and take over whole swaths of a huge state. And we don't want that. And we need people like Theodius Daniel to step up and be upfront and make something happen there and present some opposition to it. If anyone can get me a wire to him, I would appreciate it. I'm trying to get him for an interview, and I have no idea how to get a hold of him. I've made a few efforts, but nothing has yielded any fruit so far. All right, let's not forget Irina Zaratuska, who has Irina's Law. Now, that they check suspects before they just willy nilly release them, which is good. But at the same time, the person who killed her, is currently incompetent. And if he's found incompetent at the final hearing for it, they can't charge him. So apparently, if you just do whatever you want and act like a complete loon afterward, then you can get away with it. Because what do you do if you can't charge him? Can you lock him up in an asylum? They're very vague about all that. But thankfully, our federal government has pressed charges against him, and he won't be seeing the light of day anytime soon, even if he escapes justice in his home state, Carolina. Another person that we salute every week on this show is Andrew Wolf. I'm told he threw out a first pitch. My producer gave me the link, and I lost it somehow. He threw out a first pitch at a college game, I believe, about a week ago or a week and a half ago, and it was good to see him. He looked healthy. He looks like he's doing very well, and thank God. And he should be to us a symbol that we should never have the National Guard wandering around cities without being armed, because there's no reason why he should have had to run from that gunman. He could have put him down. And I certainly would have had faith in his ability to do so. And I certainly trust him to have a gun, more so than I trust a lot of the people in D.C. that have guns. All right, so let's keep praying for him, and let's keep praying for his continued recovery. I really don't have much else for you. I was going to do the show last night, and I just wasn't well, and I ended up sleeping through the show slot. And I know that I'm not giving it 1,000,000% tonight, but I'm ill, and I've got a lot of problems now. I've got to move in the next couple of weeks. I've got to try and find a place. I'm on a very fixed income, very low income, so it is extremely difficult for me to do this process. And but I have to get it done because there have been complaints against my roommates, legal complaints. It has nothing to do with paying rent. We pay the rent on time every time. But, there's been, a number of complaints, and they're basically pushing us out. So, I've been kind of enmeshed in doing all that. But it feels good to get with you guys every now and then and spend a little time in your company, and knowing that there's a world out there outside of my grief and my problems. As you know, I'm fighting cancer right now. Doing pretty good. I have 3 more treatments to go, and then we'll see if it worked or not. And after that, then I guess we'll have to figure out what comes next. But, I've got a lot going on, and it's been an avalanche. And I have to say that my Getter people, the people that check in on Rumble, and people from BitChute and whatnot that contact me, I really appreciate all of you, and I thank you for being there. And I want to keep bringing shows to you, so I intend to keep doing that, and as long as I can. Anyway, I don't know what my physical status is. I don't know how bad off I am, so we'll keep at it. Also, I want to remind everybody that if you have prayer requests, if you want to talk to someone, you're in a Christian crisis of some kind, you can always email me at PegLegCraigJ@gmail.com. Okay, I'm happy to converse with you back and forth. If we need a more immediate source of give and take, like I am, possibly a phone call, that's fine. I have no problem with it. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you with your Christian problems. And, I'm here to listen and try and, do what I can to make the world a better place any way that I can. So I'm a wretched Christian. I've been through a lot, and I came back to Christ. And a lot of people say, well, you have no right to come back to Christ. They cite Hebrews 6:4. By the way, next week on Sunday, I'm going to show you why I know for a fact Paul didn't write Hebrews. I mean, anyone who really reads the scriptures, would know this. And I didn't actually know it from reading the scriptures. I had to kind of figure it out from a couple of different sources. But there's no way Paul wrote Hebrews. Okay, no way. Not even close to possible. He didn't write it. But anyway, that's my detractors who have a problem with how I define Hebrews 6:4. Hebrews chapter 6, verses 4 to 6. First thing they come at me is what Paul's trying to say is, well, you're already shown your ignorance because Paul didn't write it. All right. And again, I'm going to show you on Sunday how Paul didn't write it. Also, I did promise that I was going to help you, anyone out there suffering with COPD. This is my regimen. I use fennel. I take that and put it under my tongue for about a half an hour, along with thyme. I also take that, put it under my tongue for about a half an hour. And I use, let's see if I can find it here. I use fresh green cardamom. Okay. I also put those under my tongue. They come in buds. All right. I put them under my tongue for roughly a half an hour. And let me go get my supplement. Yeah, I know there are better companies than this, but I got to go with what I can afford, and it's doing the job. NAC. Okay. This is like, one of the best things you can do for your lungs. NAC. All right. Thyme, fennel, and green cardamom. And also, I walk 3 to 5 miles a day. I mean, I break it up into several walks so that I don't do too much all at once. All right. But I went from moderate COPD to no COPD. My last breath test was normal, completely normal. So that's my regimen. That's what I do. I haven't been dieting particularly well lately, so I'm not going to try and use that, and tell you that my diet, saved my life, because I really didn't. I've been eating a lot of junk food lately. I suddenly have this fear that I may not live all that long, and I want to enjoy my food while I still can. So I'm enjoying some stuff that I didn't eat for all those years that I was on low carb. But yeah, I'm going to get into more healthy eating as the weeks go now. Once I get past this, I have 3 more treatments to go, and we'll see then if we got rid of the cancer or not. Hopefully we did, and hopefully if we didn't, it didn't get any worse, and we'll take it from there. But I just wanted to share that with you, okay? And just remember, once a day, just a handful, like, a pinch, put it under your tongue, of thyme, a pinch of fennel, and a pinch, 2 buds of green cardamom. Sometimes I use 4. I put them under my tongue. I let them sit for about a half an hour or so. Then I chew on them for a little while. I usually spit the green cardamom out. The thyme and thyme and fennel, I usually swallow. I take 2 of these a day. And when I was in the therapeutic stage, when I first started out, I was taking about 4. And then after about 2 weeks of that, I cut down to 2 a day. And like I said, it's done wonders. And in that time, I hadn't quit smoking yet. But I'm getting there now. I'm real close. I've cut down considerably. And I believe this week it'll all be over, finally. And after that, then I'm going to do my show on addictions, because I feel like I would have been a hypocrite to do a show on addictions while I'm still addicted to something. So that's that. Anyway, at this point, I'm going to close out the show. Ran a little longer than I actually thought it was going to. I know I just talked off the top of my head. I didn't bring you a whole bunch of research and a whole bunch of other stuff like that, but you really don't need it. You are intelligent people, all right? You're beautiful people. You're God's creation. Jesus died for every last one of you, and he loves you all. And by extension, I love you all. And I know that you're smarter than to fall for this stuff and to allow us to be divided. I know that you're smarter than that. I know that we're stronger than that. I know that we're going to overcome this. We're not only going to win the midterms, all right, but we're going to come together as a country, and we're going to finally put, this leftist communist crap under our boot, right over its neck, and bring it down to the ground to submission like it needs to be. You know why? Because we love America, and we want to fix America, and we want America to be great again. America's pretty good right now, but it needs to be great again. And that's how we make America great again. Anyway, pray for me. I'm praying for you. Let's pray for everybody that I've mentioned tonight, whether they're good or bad. I pray for Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and Megyn Kelly, that they soften their hearts, that they see the light, that if they're acting from an agenda, that they at least be honest with us about what agenda it is they're acting from, and that they do something about it. Anyone that can, help me with a couple of bucks to move, I have a GoFundMe in my description box. I don't really expect you guys to do anything. I know there's a lot of other things that are much more important to share your money with. So, but if you can, drop something in the bucket. I'm really, really on dire financial times at this point. So I would appreciate it. But it is definitely not my reason for being here. Anyway, I love you all. Pray for me. I'm praying for you. Good night, America. Pastor Murray, can you take us out, please?
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. I'll identify these people, who they are and what they're doing, because one of them gets a deadly wound. And the beast which I saw was likened to a leopard. That's one that changes spots. That's your Kenite. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. That'll take in Roosh. And his mouth is the mouth of a lion, his tearing. And the dragon, who? Satan himself, the old dragon, gave him his power and his seat. What again does this word seat mean? Throne. The dragon himself gives the one world government its throne. That means its power. You might wonder, many people would say, well, how could all these nations from Tahiti, from Bahrain to Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Yemen, how could all of them at the same time rise up? They got something in common, my friend. And we're talking about somebody that's going to give it a throne, not just a seat, a throne. What happens then? Verse 3, and I saw one of the heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Who healed that wound? Well, read the next verse. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? The one world government, you can't make war with that. Why? There's no government to go against it. It consumes the world, but not God's elect. This is where you got to understand, and this is why you got to have strong faith, is to know as long as God is with you, who can be against you? Nobody. As long as you are armed with the sword of the Lord, the truth, and you understand what's happening in the world, God protects you. You and He make a majority, and you can count on that. You can believe it.